I think for most communities, Benedict Anderson has argued that most communities are imagined. And of course, you know, the UK is an amazing example of an imagined community. You know, it is not really one community. It is at least three, and actually many more. And we can see this in the last few years because of Scotland very, very clearly. And in the case of Palestine, whether they like it or not, the imagined community is more important because physically the community is not together. Until it is together, we have to use film, literature, theater, you know, we have to use the arts to imagine, to hold back that community. So that's a very important function. And the other function, of course, which is also cinematic, is keeping the record, fighting erasure, fighting denial. These are the things that Zionism has done so well. We have to fight it with its own with our own, I would say, cultural means, with film, with literature, etc., with theatre. We have to fight to tell the story. Zionism has controlled the narrative arena, the narrative political arena, or the political narrative arena. Look at it the way you like. So for so long, we have to establish a story of Palestine, like there is a story of Israel. And this is what cultural resistance is. And because there isn't one nation in Palestine because of the divisions, there isn't one, unfortunately, government in Palestine, then the only way of keeping the community together is cultural, and is cultural resistance. And that's why the cinematic reality is actually probably the only reality at the moment that keeps Palestine together. And I just want to end by talking about those two communities and about the Nakba Day, the 15th of May, which is not far away, and this is why we're sitting where we are. And the Nakba Day is, of course, the day in which, on the one hand, on the left, there is the Independence Day of Israel, independence. And on the other hand, there is, Nakba, of course, stands for the great calamity, catastrophe, disaster. You know, there isn't a word big enough in English to describe this. So on the one hand, you have the victory, but the victory doesn't exist without defeat. Do we need to be reminded today that there is no profit without loss, you know? And one person's profit, whatever their name is the loss of millions, yeah? So the victory of the Israelis is the defeat of the Palestinians. The Israelis are dominant, but that means repression and oppression. And Independence Day in Israel, which, believe me, is a terrible event, even the Israelis know and believe that, is official, is, you know, if you think of a combination of the worst of Stalinism and 1984, then you get close to this. Of course, the Palestinians for many years had to, I don't want to say celebrate, but remember the Nakba secretly. They would go to their villages in secret because they could not do so openly. So for the Israelis, there is a country won, a miracle, you know, turning back history. And the Palestinians are commemorating a country that for currently it is still lost. So on the one hand you have festivity, on the other hand you have melancholia. And I don't want to do all that. I want to go to the end and say, what does this mean that we're sitting here today in Sheffield, and a week ago we sat in London, and a week before there was one in Frankfurt, and you know, I won't go into the whole list, but the fact that there is such a big list is should really warm our hearts. And what is Palestinian cinema doing? it is actually using the very tools that Zionism is so well perfected of, the tools of history and memory. Because we were for many years told that the Jews who always belonged in Palestine are now coming back to it. And Palestine was, of course, an empty country. In the words of a 19th century MP, Israel Zangwill, and London East London MP, an empty country to people, people without a country without a people to a people without a country. And this denial of Palestine and its history and its realities is now turned back against Israel. The Palestinians are using not the gun, not the cannon, not the F-16, they haven't got those and they won't get those, but they're using history and memory, the most powerful, the most potent in our armaments against Israel. They're turning like a jiu-jitsu of an intellectual kind. They're turning history against Israel. They're turning memory against Israel and its project of annihilation and denial. It is supplying the Palestinians with a cultural identity that the government is not doing. And this is a great thing, that the new films are also critical of that corrupt government, that government that sits in the pocket of Israel and the US, is a really good sign. This is a healthy society. It is not run by governments. It's a civil society. It is courageous. It is not shirking its duty to defend the individual from a repressive regime, be it Palestinian or Israeli. I am proud that my friends, the Palestinians, do what I cannot do as an Israeli. I cannot and I will not criticize and attack the Palestinian government, but I'm very glad that they are doing it because it's due for that type of criticism. It is promoting Palestine case abroad in a similar way, if not with a similar result, that the Israelis have done for many years. It is assisting solidarity movements such as the one that put this event together, such as the many thousands that are putting events like this together. We are following the anti-apartheid movement guidelines closely, intelligently, imaginatively, and those films are important. And to fight violence with words is always, I think, a good idea. Because to fight violence with violence, I don't think I need to persuade you, is not going to win anything.